Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at understanding some of the programming that goes into our idle control routine so that if we're getting, let's say, a stalling or a idle hanging returning into idle, we can fix it. We also want to make sure that we have some other tables potentially updated based on turning our air conditioning on or cutting our steering wheel or a combination of both, making sure that the idle isn't bogging or stalling. We can influence the feedback rate for the throttle feedback and the spark timing feedback in the closed loop idle control routine. We're going to learn how we can potentially adjust some of that. And more importantly, we're going to be taking a look at understanding how to update our ETC idle angle target table. That is the table that's going to be called on and used in the long-term learn memory of the engine control module for the idle control routine. So we're going to learn how to reset the learn memory and then how to populate the table with actual closer values to give us a better starting point and not having the engine control module learn as much for where the throttle blade needs to be at for desired airflow coming into the engine, a desired torque output. This is important. Let's just say we reset the ECU, we reset the keep alive memory. You'll find for the first probably few minutes of driving, your idle speed might hang high because it has to learn, and that adaptive long-term learn has to relearn it again. So the better that we have our base position for the throttle angle versus expected airflow, the better off our idle control is going to be just overall. And the less we have to rely on that learned, long-term learn adaptive idle control. So that's the first thing we're going to start off with here, and then just kind of trickle into a couple other key areas that you may want to edit and adjust in your calibration file. All right, we're going to be working in our VCM scanner and our VCM editor software. First, we're going to open up a stock file here to take a look at, just to do it a brief overview, understanding how this ETC idle target table plays a role in the idle control routine. Then we're going to jump into our scanner. We're going to look at 2 example data logs of how to populate the table and then the cause and effect from changing the table out and what that looks like. So let's jump in here. We're going to go to File, we're going to go to Open, and I'm in my sample calibration file subfolder in my HPT Gen 3 Coyote main folder. So this is our course packet, and this is going to be the subfolder found in that course packet. So sample calibration files, we can go in here and open up any stock equivalent file. You can even open up your file if you have that for a reference point. I'll go ahead and just go in here. Let's do a 2020 Mustang GT manual stock, and let's go ahead and open this up. So I'm going to move into engine, and we're going to go from general into idle, and we have our 4 tabs for our programming. We've talked about what these tabs represent here in the control routine, so simple enough. Let's talk about real quickly what our airflow table here, specifically your ETC idle throttle angle here, represents. What does this table actually represent, and why do we want to go ahead and populate it with new values in the control routine? So again, this is trying to be as brief as possible because we've covered this already. RPM tab. This is where we specify the desired target idle speed in our idle control conditions. We look at the desired idle speed, we look at engine actual idle speed, and whatever the difference is going to be, either we're or higher or lower than the desired target idle speed, we adjust the throttle angle and the spark timing simultaneously to achieve a certain level of torque output out of the engine so that we meet the desired idle speed. So there's always torque manipulation going on in the background, and that's moving the throttle open or closed and adjusting the spark timing, advancing and retarding it so that we influence the engine's torque to achieve that desired idle speed. Now, there's both a short-term trim learn and there's a long-term trim learn for the idle control routine. The short-term trim learn is based here, if we go over to our torque tab in our feedback window here, the proportional and integral drive both the throttle body blade opening and closing very small amounts, and the spark timing moving back and forth to achieve that torque target, to achieve the idle desired torque RPM that we're trying to command the system at. So this is used in the short-term control, but there's an adaptive long-term control that the engine control module is also working with, and that's going to be related to the course adjustment to our torque. That's our throttle body or airflow movement. So we have this other learned value going on in the background and populating in the ECU's memory. We use our general settings in here to turn on the adaptive idle control, which kicks us into the long-term learning. We find here that the airflow table, idle airflow, etc. Idle throttle angle. This table takes a look at the airflow coming into the engine, the desired air mass, and then it's going to be taking a look at where the throttle blade should start at for the control. Now, this is the starting point. This is a feed forward table. It's going to start here, and then it's going to learn where the throttle blade needs to be at for when the actual air mass is called out, the desired air mass, actual air mass gets in that range. It's going to be using this as a starting point and then learning where it needs to park the throttle blade at when we're commanding a certain torque or desired air mass target. So we want to update this table because if we've changed our throttle body out, the correlation between air mass and throttle blade opening is going to change, and we want to have a better starting point. Now, technically speaking, if you didn't update this table and you left things alone, the engine control module would learn the new throttle body in terms of where it expects the throttle blade to be at.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.